First thing I'm going to do is read the land acknowledgement statement for the town of Smith Falls. On October 27th, excuse me, on October 27th, 2021, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I do not have an agenda.
A second.
Hello?
Yes, Tony.
I do not have an agenda. I wasn't okaying it. I don't have one.
Oh,
Did I get
Very-
a quick synopsis of what is the agenda?
Mary, can you quickly email the agenda to Tony?
Well, I can't look at the email and look at my,
All right. The agenda is, there's a delegation from the Heritage House Museum, and then we have 5 items under priority issues. The downtown revitalization render project feedback, the water treatment plant, the town hall windows, new designations and properties of interest, and chapter 4 of the standards and guidelines for historical places in Ontario. And the project update is the RFQ, a revised project scope, quotation, and budget.
okay, after town hall, windows?
Yeah, town hall renovation dash windows, it says on the agenda.
Okay,
after.
after that,
New designations and properties of interest. Sorry, I went too fast, didn't I? Next, after that is chapter 4 of the standards and guidelines, as we work our way through that document. And then we have a project update on the RFQ, the revised project scope, quotation, and budget.
okay.
Would anyone like to add anything to the agenda? No, would someone move that we approve the agenda then, please? Katie, thank you. And the seconder? Lorraine, thank you. Next is adoption of the minutes from July 21st. We haven't met for a little while. That really was the last meeting, right, Mary?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Would someone move that we adopt those minutes then, please? Jenny, and a seconder? Lorraine, thank you. The minutes are, all in favor. I forgot that. All in favor of adopting the minutes. Okay, approved. Thank you. Disclosure of monetary interest. Anybody? Okay, so we can move ahead then to the delegation, and Danielle Marshall from the Heritage House Museum is going to make a presentation. So you have the floor, Danielle.
Thank you very much, Dorothy. Not so much a presentation, just more of a sort of introduction. So I've been brought on to the Heritage House Museum through the Trillium Resiliency Fund and to look at COVID relief and how we can recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And part of that project that I'm working on is creating better relationships internally with stakeholders and also community members, but right now, obviously, internal stakeholders. And I just wanted to open the lines of communication between this committee and the Heritage House to see if there's possibilities for collaboration or kind of joint programming going forward. I know in the past, this committee and its precursor did joint programming and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to introduce myself and just like say, hi, I'm around, you know, that kind of thing. Then I don't want to reinvent the wheel. It's just more of kind of, I talked to Mary and Carl about it a while ago. Just kind of doing like, so you guys did the joint, you did a scavenger hunt in the spring, I believe. So looking at that would have been a really great collaborative relationship we could have done together and gotten kind of programming behind that. And just sort of a reminder that we're here for you anytime you need us.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone has any like further questions. I can give you my email if you want to get in contact directly. It's, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing like crazy.
Mhm. Anyone have any questions for Danielle or comments?
No.
But
Well,
we'll keep you in
collaboration-
mind.
Collaboration sounds like a really good idea, Danielle. And we'll keep that in mind
Yeah.
the next time we think about a project.
Yeah, for sure. And also,
Or if you have a project, please contact us and see if, you know, it could work both ways, of course.
yeah, well, one thing Lisa and I had been talking about was maybe revamping the downtown walking tour. Because that was an original collaboration between the museum and the Heritage Committee. And we've been having some community input that some of the information that's being presented in the current one isn't accurate. So we would maybe want to start with taking a look at that. And just, I don't know if that's still a thing. I know it was under ECDEP for a while, so I don't know if that's something that we could look at again.
Do you mean the one that was recently produced then?
Yeah. Yeah,
one?
there's houses in there that are, I think they're saying they're from the Edwardian period, but they're actually from the Victorian period. And there's just little things that the people featured have come back to the Heritage House and said there's some inaccuracies, and if we could work on getting that kind of fixed up, that'd be great.
I think it was an economic development project. I'm not sure that the Municipal Heritage Committee had a lot of input into it.
Well, my understanding was the original one, like the one that was that one is based off of, was a joint project between this committee and the Heritage House. So,
okay.
Just like maybe something like that, or the scavenger hunt again. We could work together to do something like that. Lorraine.
Lorraine?
Yeah, no, Danielle, nice to meet you. And one of the things that I think one of the things that we could take advantage of for sure is the ability to go and do research. And I know Ted Outerbridge is working for the newspaper, local newspaper, and I think in a magazine perhaps. And he's highlighting different things that are happening in the town of Smith Falls that have to do with heritage. And I believe he's done his research all in your basement, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So actually
I mean, you advertising that research aspect of what you do to me is really useful, because I think when I chat with people about, you know, their own interest in heritage, they don't realize that there's that tool and information that they can go and look up and just research too. So, and we're going to be able to have people again. So we'll be able to have, we're going to have a big celebration Christmas. So yeah, got lots of things going on.
Yeah, we do hold the the original Heritage House designations that were done in the 70s. We have all of those files here in the basement where I am. I think maybe in that filing cabinet over there. And then and then every time we get a request, we add to those files. So the files are constantly being updated with research and photos. So when you folks are doing your designations, just keep us in mind as well, that we have information here that might be helpful.
Thank you.
Do you have any projects coming up, Danielle, to make us aware of?
Not at the moment. We are just finishing all of our Halloween stuff. So this weekend, Friday and Saturday, we have the haunted house at the museum. It's 7 to 9. it's scary. If the screams I heard on the weekend are anything to go by. And then we are also doing some paint nights. The next one is November 6th for Remembrance Day. And then we're also doing Christmas
Artist.
cards.
Who's the artist that's doing the paint?
It's Paint with Janet.
Janet who? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm unfortunately not the contact for that. That paint. It's Paint with Janet is the name of the company.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
we used to do them with artists. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, she is an artist, but that's what she's asked to be advertised as.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's all on our Facebook page if you want to
Okay. Thank you.
meander on over.
Any more comments or questions for Danielle? Julia?
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that my predecessors in economic development, they did develop the Heritage Walking Tour, but we're more than happy to take a relook at that and update anything that isn't in committee to see if there are any additional houses or information that we want to put in. So if that's something we want to look to do for 2020, we can definitely schedule some meetings to talk more about that.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much, Danielle.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you all virtually.
Nice to meet you too. Okay, let's go ahead then with the priority issues. The first one is the subcommittee feedback. The subcommittee met to take a look at the downtown revitalization renders, and I assume there is some feedback for our committee and also for economic development. So who is going to speak to that? Chris?
Sure, I could start, Dorothy. I got to start with an apology though, because I'm still at my office and I can't get my town email here because it's whatever security differences there are. So I don't have anything with me, and I did really intend to get something to everybody before the meeting. So I apologize for that. But thanks to Katie and Tony, we were able to sit down and go over the renderings and compile some comments and go over the project proposal and the scope and all of the things that kind of set these expectations for us beforehand. And there's no doubt, like, the project proposal references accessibility, which is another aspect that wasn't addressed. But it uses heritage multiple times in it. So it's disappointing. And I think the thing that was really confirmed in our subcommittee meeting was it was disappointing that really what's being presented is more of a whitewash than a how-to guide on how to get a historic facade up and going, or just to get a non-historic facade to fit in with adjacent, the character of adjacent buildings and the architecture of adjacent buildings. Because I think it's easy to think of heritage as old and old things that we need to keep. And there's a lot of old, beautiful things out there that we want to keep. But really, heritage speaks to good design, and good design flows. It incorporates the era, it takes it all in. And that's why we can have a heritage designated building that's 20 years old, or a designated building that's 120 years old. So I guess the thing is that as this document's getting pushed in the downtown, there's a lot of major concerns with certain ways of quote unquote rehabilitation that is being proposed. One of the biggest ones for me is painting the brick. We've seen countless examples of where brick that needs to breathe is painted and then it starts to peel off, and we've just got this endless nightmare until the facade's ultimately rebuilt. There's several other examples like that we could go into, but I think what we need from the committee tonight is just where people's heads are at. I know where, and Katie and Tony, you can chime in for what I'm forgetting here, but I think the three of us, we sat down and we're really on the same page with it. But if everybody else isn't, then we need to kind of look at how we want to move forward. Or if we are all on the same page, then I think we want to pass a resolution and pass it on to council and the CIP program just make them aware of our concerns and have them well documented and make sure that we're not promoting bad design or bad practices in our downtown core. Tony or Katie, did you have anything to add to that?
Sure, I think we both talked about it's almost like a cookie cutter approach to what they're doing, what they're proposing to do. I mean, every town is unique and individualistic, and ours certainly is. But the projections that they're putting forward, I think we've all seen them multiple times in other formats, other towns. To me, it's just a computer generated bunch of designs. That's all. It doesn't really complement our downtown core whatsoever.
I agree.
So I guess the thing is that as much as this is a disappointment, I do think there is some progress made here, and that's the opportunity to have this conversation. And I think it also brings the opportunity to try to get something that's a little bit closer to what we've seen at our heritage symposiums, so the businesses really do have that blueprint and the best practices, because the big thing that's missing here is the best practices where sure, you could cover it with plywood and make it look like it's supposed to be old, but there's a lot of really cool tricks of taking what's already there and just bringing it back, or and sometimes it's cheaper than redoing it. So I don't know. Do we want to make a recommendation like that, or are we interested in maybe drafting a resolution for the next meeting? We could distribute it via email so everybody's got a chance to look at it beforehand, or what kind of Dorothy, Jenny, and Lorraine, because I know how Katie and Tony feel about it. We were pretty constructive but disappointed,
I did feel the same way when I looked through it before I handed it over for the hard copy for Tony to look at. I do have to agree with you, Chris. Yeah. Jenny?
Just more of a question. Any recommendation or resolution that we put forward is more just to get our opinion on the record. Like this could still progress whether we like it or not.
Yep.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it'll be good though for the CIP to have this dialogue, or to have some backing from us, because it's just different group, different perspectives, so that so to add that into the mix hopefully will help. I don't know. Sorry, Julia, did I cut you off there? My screen's all over the place.
Nope.
I don't
That's
know
okay. Yeah, my internet
today. Yeah.
My internet connection is really bad today, so I apologize if I'm cutting out. Maybe I'll try shutting my video off. That might make it a little bit better. So I apologize, guys. So just because I wasn't here when these design guidelines were set out, did the Heritage Committee have an opportunity to review before the designs were finalized and put in?
No, we did not.
Okay. And so my understanding from the project is this is really a visual reference for businesses to help them understand what a building could look like, not necessarily that the designs in there are supposed to be set in stone, or that's exactly what we're looking to see. And a lot of the finishes and colors and designs that are put in here, and the materials to be used, that really is all coming from the downtown design guidelines that is currently in place, and which council had adopted a while ago. So it's really just more of a guide to help assist when people are going through the CIP process and wondering what they could potentially do. I think, you know, from a heritage perspective, if there are heritage features that we want to preserve, those things can be identified, and we can encourage that through the CIP when we are doing the consultations with them. We don't ever want to distract or take away heritage features. We definitely want to keep those. And I know painted brick has been an ongoing conversation. And I think in some cases, if there is a building that already is painted, then it's a good option for a reface. But yeah, you're right. We want to avoid painting any brick that doesn't need repair, that is in good condition. I think everyone's on the same page as that. And I don't think the design guidelines are necessarily, you know, saying that we should do that. It's just more of a visual representation. And there are some different options for each of the buildings that were kind of captured within the design guidelines. Some of them lean towards more historical, and some of them do lean to more modern. My concern, and I get your concern and I appreciate them. I'm just wondering, in terms of the cost, you know, if this committee is looking to recommend to council to redo these design guidelines, there's going to be cost considerations. Like this project was a $25,000 project. So I'm wondering, like you said, if Chris, if there is another way to through CIP, rather than trying to take this document and you know, redo it and reproduce it.
Go ahead, Chris.
Katie, you can go first. I've been talking a lot.
Well, I was just wondering if what is your next step, Julia?
So our next step is when the CIP is revamped, which we're hoping to do in 2022, that these are released to the public with that new program or with that revised program. So we are currently using it right now with businesses when they're interested in the CIP. We bring the book and the design guidelines to say, this is what council currently has in place, and here's some visual options that you can consider, or some ideas that might potentially work for your building. We're not telling businesses that these designs are the end all be all and you have to use these. It's more just to give a visual representation of the different colors and the different lighting and the different facade treatments that could be put on a building. You know, again, existing brick, we want to make sure that's remaining to preserve that. Even in terms of some of the metal finishes, give an idea what it should look like. And some of the lettering, there's some more modern lettering, there's some more traditional lettering, and the colors as well. I think the colors are really something that businesses have a hard time visualizing. So that's really what this booklet is supposed to do.
So can they opt out altogether of doing anything, or is there a portion of something they have to do?
No, again, these are just visual representations to give businesses an idea of what they could do. They don't have to take these suggestions. There are design guidelines that council has approved. So there's a document that goes along with the CIP that says, you know, the colors have to be this way, the metal finishes have to be within this range, the colors have to be of heritage colors. Businesses can not follow that, which means we don't fund them. If they aren't, you know, if they're trying to get funding through the CIP application, they have to adhere to design guidelines. But right. We as a municipality cannot tell a business owner or property owner what to paint their building or what facade treatments they can put on. They can still do it. We just can't fund them if they're not following our design guidelines. Okay. And of course, we're going to encourage them not to go outside of the box that we have.
Yep.
Tony.
Yes, my concern with it, what you're presenting to business people, owners, whatever, new people starting up businesses, in my recollection, most of this whole program that you're putting out there has these fake facades on them. We're not going back and looking at the original building. Take on the Justice Building for one. The corner is again boxed in instead of using the original doorway. We're presenting like a faux finish on these buildings instead of looking at their historical background and what they were originally like, and perhaps what they could be semi-returned to. Everything. And when somebody sees these designs, they're going, oh, bingo, let's do this. We're going to get the money to do this. Our downtown is going to be turned into this cookie cutter approach for our businesses. That's all. And we're not going to look like we did historically, how the buildings look like historically. We're going to look like something, you know, that was built in 1990. Anyway, that's my nickel's worth on just the approach that you're bringing, the options that you're giving them. I don't think they're not really good ones. That's it.
Too bad we didn't have some input before.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Lorraine, did you want to comment? And then Chris?
I've looked through it a few times, and I guess unlike others, I think that some of the more modern or the buildings that weren't part of our original heritage in the downtown, I think some of the options that are shown aren't bad at all. I don't disagree that I think it would make more sense to have done what I did on the weekend. I walked up and down Mississippi Mills, downtown core, and took pictures. I think I sent some to Chris. I'm not sure. I sent some to other people, but I think that there are many, many towns that didn't have fires. And those towns are the fortunate towns because they have the footprint left with the buildings' facades pretty much just aging. And so when you look at the building, you don't have to transform it or rethink it. It's there, it just needs repair. Unfortunately, with our 3 major fires, we lost a lot of that. And in the past, well, I would say maybe 60 years or more, a lot of the treatment was trying to keep up with what the modern day buildings were trying to do. And as a result, we have a mismatch or a mismash or whatever you call of great architecture that's not well cared for, and some new stuff it's in good condition and it's being kept well, but it doesn't speak as a heritage downtown. And when Julia was talking about nothing we can do to not move forward, is we've talked about this as long as I've been in the MHC. If we were a downtown that was a heritage district, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because we would have all those buildings protected, and we would be saying to the people with the CIP that these buildings must have a facade that imitates what they were like before. And I think the biggest struggle for downtowns, and I know it's one of the problems, is that if I'm just a renter in a building, I want my building to look great. I want it to be appealing and whatever. And I don't own the building, so I don't want to spend millions on my building. I want it just to look nice and presentable and have people come in and buy. And that's part of the problem in all of it. The owners historically in our town aren't willing to spend money on their facade and to keep their building as it was as heritage. And the owners, not all of them, there's some people do own their building, but the majority of them rent. And as a result, they don't have the same interest to spend that much money, because it's a lot of money. That being said, I still think we could, or somebody could, and I wouldn't even mind helping with it, if you take pictures of facades that are easy and they're everywhere, then people can look at a building and say, nah, I know it's going to be a little costly, but you know what? I'm going to paint it every year like I have to do my old house, and it'll stay forever. Because the painting is the other option, right? The buildings that are in that rendering, it's going to be there for a long time. So it's a cost-saving issue. And as I said about some of the infill buildings, I think they're not bad. The other thing that I agreed with in it is they took all the infill windows away. And even that I thought was a massive improvement. All of our old buildings had the large windows put back in, because that's a big cry for help in those buildings. You go by them and they've got these little tiny aluminum windows inside what used to be a beautiful old window. I think I probably said enough.
Yeah, no, I think the Heritage Conservation District points are really important because it just shows once again how we're affected by not having the proper policies and plans in place. And going into budget season, I was going to bring this up later in the meeting, but I'll bring it up now too. I really think we need to start advocating over the next month when council's making budget decisions that we put that money aside for that study. Going back to the windows, I think like an interesting one, I like that they open them up, but a lot of the times the way they're divided and the way the panes work just create this kind of dead big square. The worst example that I can think of right now is at the shoe store. There's 3 beautiful leaded glass windows above the on the second story, and they propose taking those out and putting in a big square glass pane that can't get open, that can't have any adjustment. It just looks dead. And we've seen windows when they've taken out what was there and put in these big things that lack character. When it comes to some of the modern designs, I think where it missed the mark, for example, with the cannabis storefronts, where cannabis storefronts have these notorious dead-looking facades that are
Unwelcoming.
exactly with the frosted glass. It might as well be a boarded up window to meet the government regulations. But I've seen some really cool shops in Toronto, even in Cloyne. There's a neat one when you're driving down Highway 41. It really pops. And so instead of taking those kind of best practices, we don't get that quality in this document. So but that being said, it's not a complete write-off. So I'm thinking, why don't we circulate, because I know with our subcommittee, there were some things that were a hard no, like taking out the leaded glass and putting in a big pane, and get those things documented. And then, so, you know, it's not a no to everything, but we can at least get that out of the way and then pass a resolution, get it to council, get it to the CIP. Because my real concern with the CIP is there's been a push to green light applications that meet these facades. So if you check off all the boxes on what this red grant shows for you, you know, just giving that the go ahead for town funding. And there's a lot of examples in this document that I don't think that would accomplish our objectives in the Heritage Committee. So how about, is that a good way forward? Or Juliet, I saw you cut in.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. I got disconnected there, but I was just getting the rest of your last sentence there. So I also just wanted to kind of reiterate that the buildings that were chosen specifically for this design guidebook are ones that were identified as not being heritage, that there were no significant heritage features on them. And they were derelict, and they were, you know, painted already. And so that's why they were kind of identified. Again, you can't go back and make a building, like Lorraine said, that had been destroyed by fire and had been kind of re-facaded back to being heritage necessarily, but we do want to preserve what is heritage. And I do agree that, you know, the rounded window features and some of the other moldings and those types of things, we definitely want to keep on the buildings that we do have. But sometimes having another opportunity, and we want to be able to I think that's kind of our character and our brand is we're not Perth, we're not Mississippi Mills, our entire downtown is not completely brick and historical. I think, it kind of speaks to the transition that Smith Falls has had, where we're contemporary, we're modern, but we also have historic roots, and we want to keep those and we appreciate those, and we want to, celebrate those. So I just want you to take that into consideration, with your comments and stuff, that we're not trying to put cookie cutter examples in for these buildings. We do want character in the buildings. We don't just want painted boxes. That's not what this design guideline is for. It's really just to give some visual representation of what different we're suggesting in any way. And if you look at most of the renderings, any building with brick that is currently unpainted, we have only looked to paint the bottom portions that aren't brick, or some of the more derelict portions of that. We're not suggesting in any of these to paint the brick unless the brick is already crumbling and in disrepair.
Okay, Chris?
So if we can meet on the 17th, that'd be our next scheduled date in November. Would it be okay if I get the report resolution draft out to everybody by the 12th? That gives the weekend and then the first couple of days before the meeting to review it. Is that enough time, or would people like it sooner than that?
Fine.
That's good.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julia, for attending and making your comments, and also to the subcommittee for looking at the document. Are we ready to go ahead with the next item? We okay on that one? Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, if the committee wanted to chat, or you have any other questions, or you want more information, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I'm happy to provide additional information.
Thank you. So the next two items on the agenda are items that have been on the agenda before, but I think we still need clarification and discussion around them, beginning with the former water treatment plant. We had asked to be allowed to look inside, to take pictures to document the key heritage attributes, and we were told we weren't allowed to, and the town would do it for us. But I'm not sure if the people who would be in there taking those pictures would know which were the key heritage attributes. So it's on the agenda for discussion again. Lorraine, would you want to comment?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, Dorothy, that I was there. I was walking one of the dogs by, and there's two large broken windows
Again,
right at the front of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And
was this recently?
Big enough that birds could fly into it.
Oh, no.
Mary?
Lorraine, can you send me a quick email just telling me where those windows are located, like what street they're facing, what level you saw them on, so I can send that to community?
Oh, I didn't take a picture, but I can go down and take a picture. But
I can always swing by and take a picture on the way.
Right on they're facing the park. It's right, they're the main part of the road. I didn't check the other side of the building, but I'm guessing that someone's thrown rocks through them. I don't know.
All right, I'll swing by on my way home and I'll take a picture and send it to community services.
Yeah. You won't miss it, Mary, because it's like, as I say, it's just in the middle building, and they're two big, beautiful windows, or were, and they've been smashed.
Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy. Yeah, I'm really disappointed in the way the municipality is taking care of this building. We're constantly finding broken windows, and I don't find it acceptable that we can't get a tour of the building. I think the front door of it was unlocked for several days, if not weeks there. If the building's structurally unsound, then I believe that the community services has got a duty to come and explain that and explain why, because that significantly changes the plan, not only for us, but also for the redevelopment of the site. I think it was between our last two meetings, but Bruce Linton came to committee of the whole and presented. Unfortunately, he didn't have many updates to share, but the good news I noted in his presentation was that he did talk about keeping the brick and the stone building, where in his first visit, he was only talking about keeping the stone part. So it was great to hear that from a heritage perspective. But the other side of it too is he's been struggling to find a purpose for this. And if he doesn't end up finding a purpose for it, we're going to have tours of it to get the few people who are interested in this in the future through the building. So if it's in such bad condition that we can't go through it, how are the new investors going to be able to go through it? So I think cleaning this up needs to be done, whether it's done now or it's done before we hand the keys over to Bruce. It's got to be done, and the sooner the better, in my opinion. So I don't know whether we want to go to council or how we want to move forward with this, but I feel like we're getting stonewalled, and I don't see a good reason for it right now.
Mhm. Do you think we should be making a motion then at this point?
Well, what would the motion say? That,
Did we do a motion before? Like, I forget.
No,
Was
I
it
don't think we did a motion. We asked.
Well, Mary's got her hand up.
Yes, go ahead, Mary.
Yes, there was a formal motion sent to the clerk. I can pull that and have, and give it to you guys for review. I do recall though that it was just to essentially make sure that the building was secured because there was a hole in the roof or something along those lines. But I can pull it real quick if you guys would like to take a look.
it'll have to be torn down soon. It won't be salable at all.
I think that's the whole idea.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the plan.
So maybe like if we've already passed a motion and it hasn't gone anywhere, is the next step to have a delegation, and just, it won't be a big presentation like our properties of interest presentation, but maybe one of us comes to committee of the whole or council meeting and makes the request for a tour and see if council supports that. Because if we're not going to get the support from community services, that I don't know what the next step would be. And if there's a suggestion for a middle step, I'm open to it, but.
I know.
What are your thoughts on this, Mary?
In my opinion, either one is not out of the question. I would agree with Chris that you have already done a motion. You could do another more detailed motion, explicitly explaining your concerns. But I would say that the other option is to approach the clerk's office and ask for a member to be a delegation on a committee of the whole agenda so that you can approach council on this.
Are you able to do that on our behalf, Chris, or?
It'd be Dorothy.
I-
Chair. Dorothy, would you do it?
Well, not independently. I mean, I could do it, I guess, but I'd need some help with what on earth I might say, you know?
Yeah.
Because it would probably be something that I would need to read. I mean, we're still doing all this stuff virtually. And that's another big handicap here to everything that we're trying to do. We've got motion.
In November, we're live. Right?
Well, they haven't decided though.
Yeah, we did.
You've
Didn't-
decided now?
Well, I think it's time we do decide. That's ridiculous.
Chris is shaking his head.
Yeah.
I'm saying yes, yes.
We've got-
So I know, I thought I was the only person that voted against it last time, so I don't know. I think we're still stuck in this format for the time being, and I would want to do this sooner than later because winter's coming, and I think, I don't know, like me and Tony and myself have been to council plenty of times. I think it's got more weight if it comes from somebody that's not Lorraine or me. So if one of you ladies would be comfortable doing it, I think that would be great. But if not, we can bring the update. It just doesn't have that same kind of, they're always used to me complaining, so.
Well, if somebody wishes to get together with me and coach me through this, I'll do it.
I would if I knew what you would say, but it would have to be Tony or Chris, wouldn't it? Tony, you help.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'll go with you, Dorothy, if you want a body beside you, but I can't word it.
Well, that's my problem.
Yeah.
Is the wording of it. Chris is our wording expert, I think.
Yeah, I've got some holidays coming up the next 2 weeks, so happy to help with that.
Oh, good.
Okay, so you and I will, well, the three of us can be in touch then, post meeting. Is that satisfactory for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so next item on the agenda then is the town hall renovations and the issue of the new windows. It wasn't at our last meeting that we had that presentation, because it wasn't in the minutes. It must have been the June meeting, when we were presented with the plans for the new windows. Would that be right, Mary?
So I believe it was actually in March, we had canceled the meeting and then hosted it last minute, but it took a while for us to get the sample of the window.
And how was it left at that point, that we were going to make a motion, or?
Well, at that time, there was no motion. They were just looking for some general feedback, but the committee felt awfully passionately about what the material of the windows that would be used. So they offered a sample, and we had received the sample, and many of you were able to come in and view that sample. So at this point, it would be the committee's opinion whether or not to make a motion as to what they prefer to see.
So Katie, you want to start the discussion?
Well, I just went to see the window. I thought it looked fantastic, and it looked strong and sturdy, and it'll be there forever.
Tony?
I went to see the window too. It's aluminum window and aluminum clad on the outside. Sure, it's going to be there forever, and it'll match the entranceways that are now aluminum as well. But I'd like to remind everybody that our town hall is probably older than, it is definitely older than some of the buildings in Upper Canada Village. And it's my opinion, the municipality should be making a statement on heritage of what they would like to see. We see Bruce Linton winning the Lieutenant Governor's Award for his restoration done on that building. I know there's some disagreements with some of the things the Cinnamon Boys have done on the Rideau Hotel, but overall, they've done a pretty damn good job. There's some things I don't like, but still they've done a pretty good job. And now we're going to put aluminum windows in our 160-year-old town hall. Also, if we look at the windows that are presently in there, if they'd have been painted, we wouldn't even be having this discussion because you wouldn't need to change them. I would not vote for having the aluminum clad windows in it. That building has been there since, was built in 1858. And I just don't think aluminum clad windows are going to be complementary to the look of the building, period. That's it.
Well said, Tony. I agree with that 100%. You know, there's the wood in the post office, wood in the hotel, and a lot of other town halls in the area don't have wood windows. One of the things that stuck with me at council when he presented the aluminum windows, and they've done a great job, Dan's a real professional, but they said that, you know, the quality of the heritage asset, they referred to the quality of the heritage asset, that the town hall wasn't the Parliament buildings and I really protest that. You know, this has been the site of our municipal democracy since day one, from my understanding. So to say that it's lacking in historical value for our community is not a great reason to not put it, to use one kind of window or another. And just as a side note, we really need to keep our eyes open on this one because we know how poorly the second phase went. It still isn't completed, in my opinion, until those windows we were promised in the host tower are done and the fire hall doors are done the way we were promised. Because we have seen no renderings of the Church Street facade to date. And they still need to finalize the railing and the ramp and the stuff that will affect the facade on the Beckwith Street side. So there's still two big unknowns, and maybe we can include that in whatever motion we pass tonight, just to try to encourage more consultation. Anyway, that's my take.
Lorraine?
Yeah, my colleagues, I mean, I was the only one that wanted to keep anything in the inside that, in my opinion, helped keep the heritage aspects of the building. But I do think, because I was the only one, that the tables and the chairs that are there, and I mean, they're certainly not 100 years old or 200 years old, but they're beautiful old pieces that have been there as long as, you know, I can't remember them ever not being there, and I'm 68, so they should go somewhere. And like I'd really like, if we're going to make a motion, to motion that the furnishings that are in the building that are original to it, that have been there for a very long time, at least go to one of our heritage properties. Like it could go to the museum, or it could go to the Railway Museum. It would be a great conference room kind of, you know, materials that would look great in that big room that we're going to make in that new building there, Tony, that we're restoring. Anyway, I don't want to see them just dumped somewhere. I think that would be very sad. But nobody mentioned the windows, Chris, at that meeting. And so I think our colleagues are thinking we're going to have, you know, it's going to be aluminum windows. Wasn't brought up at all.
Yeah, I don't know if you were the only one. I definitely agree with that stuff, but there's definitely the drawings we presented were pretty modern, and it wasn't like we had an option that was and I haven't seen any really good pictures of what that town hall, what the meeting room looked like over the years. You know, what did it look like before it got gutted in the 70s? It was really unfortunate we lost our roof features, because I don't know if you remember, they were going to have, there's these features in the roof that helped with ventilation they were going to keep in the ceiling, but then there was a bunch of reasons why those can't be maintained. But I don't know, we can make a recommendation and they can support it, they can't support it. But I guess what it really comes down to right now is there an MHC interest in having wooden windows or aluminum windows, or will aluminum windows with the right layout serve the purpose? And that's all we can do, right?
Well, I didn't mind the windows that he showed us. I think we all got to see those, or maybe Katie, you were not here then, maybe. But anyway, I didn't mind them. I mean, I'd much prefer wood, but in all honesty, I don't think we're going to get them to want to have to paint that number of windows, and we do it every 2 years, 3 years at the most, to maintain them. Like, that's a high maintenance item to keep them really well, I mean, and keep them looking beautiful. And if that window, I thought we had all thought it was a pretty good reproduction of what was there, but maybe I was wrong, I don't know. But I agree with Chris, the host tower, like every time I go by that and walking to the post office or something, I think, why is that not being done? Like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I know.
Madam Chair, you know, municipal heritage, you know, the reason the host tower is still there is because of us. For those, Katie, I know you're a newbie, but when we were initially given the plans for the upgrade on the, I guess, reconstruction of the town hall, whatever, the host tower wasn't even there. And we asked for it upstairs. Like I remember saying, Lorraine was next to me, where's the host tower? And there was a lot of sputtering around that day because we kind of had to explain to them it was designated as well. My thought on this also is, once, I know, to me, we didn't get a vote on the doors. I know I never voted to have aluminum entranceways put in. Mine is, we are the Municipal Heritage Committee, and if somebody asks down the road in 10 years or 15 years, well, what do you got these damn aluminum windows in this 200-year-old building? And somebody's gonna say, well, Municipal Heritage Committee okayed it. I've not put my hand up to vote for them, I know that.
Jenny, would you like to comment?
Thank you. I do have to apologize. I didn't make it in to see the sample. I guess I'm just concerned if we're making recommendations to other people that wood windows is the best practice and we're not following that, I think it's a bad precedent. I think this is a good way for us to lead by example.
It's true.
Right,
It's a good point, Jenny.
yes.
Very good.
And one would assume that the wooden windows in the Hotel Rideau and the old post office building will have to be painted. So yes, leading by example seems pretty important. So should we have a motion? At least we were asked our opinion on the windows as opposed to the doors. So would someone like to propose a motion?
I was thinking maybe we could word it so that we're talking about completing the hose tower, and that we've decided that wood windows are the way to go for the. Could we do that, Chris? Put both together?
Like, I'm wondering, Mary, if this isn't urgent, could we maybe draft something up and email it out, and then we could kind of tweak it offline so we're not, because we could include the hose tower, we could include the Church Street facade, and just make sure we get one thing that covers all.
I agree. So if we would like to bounce around that email, we just wouldn't be able to pass it until our next meeting on November 17th. But if you would like to bounce around that email and refine a motion, we can pass that at the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Before we go into the next one, Dorothy, I misread that. And if we're talking about Brockville Street, I'm going to declare a conflict. So just.
We're not really going to discuss it. No. We already passed them. We already made the motions at committee while you were in the waiting room. So the reason I put that on, I was thinking more of the properties of interest. The new designation motions are ready to go. And Tony has said that as soon as we can make presentations in person, that we'll be able to go ahead with that. Am I right, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. So that work is done and it's ready to be presented as soon as we can. But I was thinking more of properties of interest, particularly in the downtown area. And there's more than one reason for this. First of all, the comments that many of our downtown buildings are not heritage. They're not designated, but it's not the same thing.
No.
No, we know they're not designated, but several of them are heritage buildings, and it's time that we formally recognize that. And I have some research on 7 different buildings in the downtown area, which would be within a heritage conservation district if we had one. And I would like to meet with, I think it was Tony and Katie, so that we can review that research with a view to, making motions for more properties of interest within the downtown area. The other reasoning behind that is that the more properties we can indicate to council are of heritage value within the downtown, the better case we make for a heritage conservation district. So comments, Tony, and then Lorraine.
could we possibly give council an option? I really agree with what you're saying, like, let's overload them like we, the Justice Building, this and the buildings in the downtown core that we would like to see on the properties of interest list, but then say, also give them the option. The other option is to, instead of designating all these, just do a municipal heritage district as been done in Kingston and Brockville and Perth, and because they really like to see, this has already been done. You're catching up. Could we give them that kind of option thing?
Yep. Sounds good.
I think putting them on the properties of interest list, though, is a fairly easy thing to do. We haven't had problems with that in the past. We presented them to council, and council seems to have been fine with that. We still need to write the descriptions, inform the owners, as we did before with the letter that we already have prepared. Lorraine, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
Yeah, just again, my snooping as I walk all around town. Beside Alexis Building, the Coombs block, those 3 lovely buildings that are side by side.
They're on my list.
Well, the pizza shop owner, and I understand from Alexis that the pizza shop people bought that building. They just removed all those beautiful old windows and replaced them with the aluminum ones that you turn like this to go in and out. They're black and they're ugly.
They're black, yes. Chris?
I think it's a really good idea because it, even if it's redundant from a heritage conservation district perspective, I really think we need to get more exposure at committee of the whole, because I think it's easy to kind of sit on this stuff and let it kind of pass by. And then every year you lose another building, like Lorraine just says, to some kind of crazy windows or some kind of aluminum siding. I also think that the Heritage Conservation District, we need to make a big push. So I don't know if we want to get a petition going, or if we want to, if we can find some examples of the economic development impact that can have on a downtown. Just start thinking about the full case we're going to make, so that people can see that it is a really good value for our budget. But that's awesome. It's great to hear those are in the hopper. Thanks, Dorothy.
So we'll, Tony and Katie will convene and.
Yes, I'm just looking at my book, so that's great.
And because we're not, as far as I know, having a formal meeting with quorum, perhaps we could even meet in person.
Sure, it's fine with me.
This, Mary's nodding her head. Okay, good. Let's meet in person to do this.
Okay,
Because it's not very effective otherwise.
No.
I'm the one with, I've got the research and the printed information so far, so we'll get together. So
Okay.
I will initiate that.
okay, I'm happy to host here if you want, or I can come anywhere.
I know where there's a dining car, Katie.
Did you get the picture, Tony?
Pardon?
Did you get some pictures?
Yes, we did get some pictures.
Okay, good.
Any further comments on that item? No, okay, so the next item on the agenda is chapter 4. Now, Mary, you didn't mean chapter 4 and 4.1 and 4.2 and 4.3 and all that, right? You just meant chapter 4, because it's probably would have been otherwise something like 150 pages. So
Well, the truth is that I didn't have a chance to read it myself. So why don't you go as far as you can and let me know where you left off?
well, I read chapter 4, but I didn't proceed into 4.1 and so on. Would anyone like to make any comments on the information that was contained in those pages?
I didn't get to it, but I'm reading it tonight before I go to sleep, I promise.
Okay, well, I'll make a comment then, or a question first. I'm assuming that those standards and guidelines that's a federal document. Is that right, Chris? Okay, so the guidelines refer over and over to character defining elements. And would I be correct in assuming that provincially that's something we call key heritage attributes? Would that be one and the same, do you think?
Sounds like it.
So the introductory section, which was just chapter 4, emphasizes the need, how important it is to understand the character defining element of a historic place and how it contributes to the heritage value of that historic place and how it needs to be documented. And I think that's what we've been starting to do when we write our statements.
Yes.
For designation purposes. And the guidelines themselves are only applied when the element that's being intervened upon or changed or restored or rehabilitated, only when it has been identified as a character defining element or a key heritage attribute in a statement of significance. So I think it's really, the document suggests that it's really important to focus on that. And how can those character defining elements be best protected in the context of a specific intervention in a historic property? So, and also at the end of that introduction, the statement was made that a heritage conservation district is, in fact, a cultural landscape. So all the guidelines, well, not all the guidelines may apply that are listed for a cultural landscape. So it's not just building by building, but it's the setting, the visual appearance, however, the spatial organization, the focus, how everything fits together. So that was my take on that. Should we go ahead and read the next section for the next meeting? Like if you haven't read 4, read 4 and 4.1.
Okay.
Okay. So that brings us to the project update. So I can hand over to you now, Mary.
Sure. So a couple updates because we haven't met since July. So we do have a subcommittee who is reviewing these. It seems like it's been an ongoing project all year, but yes, the request for quotations that we did, that we had 2 different requests for quotations that went out. So as you know, the quotations that came back exceeded the MHC budget. So we reconvened with the subcommittee, and the subcommittee limited the scope of our project. So essentially, the first one was more about bylaw rewriting and creating a draft bylaw template. The second one was a little bit more of administration. So what the subcommittee decided was that the administration components could wait, and they really wanted to focus on updating and rewriting our bylaws. So there was a little bit of a tweak to that, though. I would recognize that 2 out of the 17 existing designated properties were provincially protected in some way. So they changed the scope for a rewrite of 15 existing heritage designated bylaws and tried to include the 3 heritage properties of interest that we currently have the recommendation to council to, for them to draft that bylaw for us. And then there was, and then that proposal was sent to the consultant that we're negotiating with on August 24th. That consultant came back with a revised quotation for us that unfortunately did still exceed the budget. They identified that although it was dialed down quite a bit, that ultimately we would still need to have a draft template provided, and that would still be part of the quote. So it does exceed the budget by roughly $5,000. So what's happened is that I've reached out to finance staff and have just asked for the committee's options. One option I have already actioned myself. I'm not sure if the committee would be looking to proceed with any other options. So at this point, we are discussing budget. So I had spoken to the director about having $10,000 added to the MHC reserve for 2022 instead of the usual $5,000. Doubling that budget will allow for this project to occur, as well as have a budget to host a symposium next year. So that is in the cards already. We have a bit of reserve already in the cards. So we'd be looking at, off the top of my head, about $20,000 available. Now, the second option was to ask council to approve this quote, but to advise them that it would be an out of budget expenditure for 2021. There's also the option to ask for pre-budget approval for 2022 for this, so that we can proceed immediately instead of waiting until budget is approved. So that's your update. I'm not sure where you would like to go from this. I would say that the one option I have already actioned. If you would like to just wait and proceed with that option, provided council approves that $10,000 request instead of the usual allotted $5,000, then we'll have ample budget there to do both the project and the symposium next year. But there's also that other options of asking for an out of budget expenditure for 2021 or pre-budget approval for 2022 so that we can proceed this year.
Tony first and then Chris.
Mary, would it be an option to, since we had that presentation by Danielle earlier, for our symposium for 2022 to apply for a COVID relief tourism grant and put on a bang up symposium next year? That would relieve town council of sticking their hands in their pockets and pulling extra money out for that event.
Lorraine?
I'm confused. So you're suggesting that we ask Danielle to use her COVID grant for our Heritage Symposium?
It's tourism, sure.
I thought the grant was paying for her, Tony.
No,
Did I misunderstand something?
I thought that too.
She applies for grants. That's what she does. She applies.
I see. Okay, so I misunderstood then. I thought she was telling us that the COVID relief grant paid for her job that she's doing right now.
It is, but what she's doing is applying for grants. That is her.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's what she went to school
What does it
for.
have to do? What does the Heritage Symposium have to do with COVID?
We can do it under tourism. Did we have a symposium in 2021? No.
No.
Did we have one in 2020? No. The reason being was COVID.
I thought we had one in 2020. No?
No, we didn't have one in 2020. We didn't have one in 21. The reason being was because of COVID.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm a little slow, sorry.
Under COVID relief, and it's a tourism, it brings tourism into Smith Falls. It should be an applicable grant that we could get, and maybe we could expand it. We usually funded it for what, under 5,000? Maybe we go a little deeper. Mary?
I would say it's possible. I can reach out to Danielle and see what assistance she could provide with that. We'd have to take a look at the grant further to see regarding timelines for spendings and whatnot, because those kind of stipulations are currently present with grants, but by all means, with a little bit of research and reach out to Danielle, it's possible.
Yep.
We might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit though with Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Tony, and maybe we can bring it back up at the November meeting just so we keep it on the radar. But for the funding for what's on the table now with the bylaw writing, I think we got an update from our treasurer, Janet Quazio, on Monday, and I think we have a surplus of somewhere around $700,000. And it happens all the time where we put stuff out for tender or request for proposals and it comes in slightly over budget. So when we've got ample surplus this year, maybe we take our chances and try to get it covered out of this year's budget and get it started. And I think for $5,000 in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big ask. I'd still like to ask for the 10 grand for next year, especially considering that I think next year the Ontario Heritage Conference is going to be hosted in Brockville. So since it's so close, we probably all want to go, and but you know, it always costs a couple $100 to sign up. So so it'd be good just to have some money put away for that. And then the big thing we're going to be asking for in 2022's budget is the 6-figure ask for an HCD. So just to kind of keep that in the back of our mind too.
What's an HCD?
Sorry, the Heritage Conservation District.
Oh, yeah. Right. I knew that.
So Chris, you're suggesting that we use one of the other options to sort of get on with it right away, as opposed to waiting till next year's budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's use some of this year's surplus money if we can get permission.
Mary?
I just wanted to clarify that what I understood from Chris is because we have surplus this year, that the option he's referring to is the option to ask for out of budget approval for 2021 because we have a surplus in other areas. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, that'd be great if we could get that. We're
And to
sticking to this.
confirm, the committee can cover the majority of the cost. It would only be a few $1,000s out of budget.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think of it like there was a pump at the water treatment plant that went and it was a couple thousand over budget, so we approved it and everybody went on their way. So maybe we could get that done too. So do we need a motion for that, Mary?
I would prefer it just in case to cover my basis.
Okay. So I'd move that, I hate doing these on the spot. The Municipal Heritage Committee of the Town of Smith Falls request out of budget approval for, and then you can put in the RFP that's on the agenda there, the title of it, for the amount of whatever we're missing to be covered out of the 2021 budget. Is that?
I'll refine it a bit, but yes, by all means, I have it all written down.
Thanks, Mary. Is there a seconder?
I will second that motion.
Tony, okay, thank you. All in favor of the motion? Or we want to discuss it more, or no, we're okay? All right. So roundtable is the next item, right? Sorry.
Mary hasn't sent them out yet, but I took notes. The virtual conference, it was long, but it was really good. And one of the people in it, Leslie, I want to get her name right. Leslie Collins was amazing. And I put down in my notes, great speaker for our symposium. So when you read the notes over, you can have a look, but yeah.
That was so frustrating for me.
I know.
Oh my God, I waited all week for it. You sit down and I never got into the meeting. It was an error every time I did it.
She said to all of us at the end that were in there, she said, you know, we're so sorry. We've had so much technical problems today with this conference, so.
But the tapes are coming out on Friday, I think,
Yeah.
and I will.
And in my notes, I set that link that you can go on and watch them
Yes.
all. They were good. They were really good.
Tony.
Yeah, roundtable.
Mhm.
I noticed a post yesterday, Victoria Park. Is it Melissa Hillier?
Hillier.
Hillier? Yeah, she's doing a cleanup there.
Well, anybody can. She's come home to help.
She's home to help.
She-
Anyway, I
she
thought it was a
lives
great
now in the States. I think it's starts with S. Seattle. Larry's young. Seattle.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, so she and her husband came home to visit family, but ended up, you know, saying with the mayor, why don't we clean up a park? And they suggested Highland. And then Art told them, no, we're going to put a whole lot of money into Highland. Let's do Victoria instead.
Okay.
So my understanding is
Mhm.
we're going to get rid of the cattails in the little creek. So wear your long boots and bring a big fork.
I will try and get over after. I got a meeting with the Canadian Army Engineer Corps. They're coming to the museum on their first visit is on Saturday. Also, the other round table, we're going ahead with the Santa Claus trains this year on the November 20th, November 27th, December 4th, and weather permitting, also we will be December 11th as well.
Wow.
And if weather permitting, we'll go even more. But yeah, so we're doing it for 4 days.
And what was the date of that cleanup?
It's
This
the Saturday.
Halloween.
On Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
8 o'clock, isn't it? Pardon? Well, we don't celebrate Sunday on Halloween.
It's supposed to rain on Saturday. I've signed up to lead a hike in the pouring rain, so.
And Sunday, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. Jenny, do you have anything for roundtable?
I do not.
Katie
I do not.
and Chris?
It's great to have a meeting again and great to see everybody. And I can't remember anything. I'm excited those tapes are recorded, so we can pass that on to our accessibility committee too, because it.
I sent it to them, Chris.
Awesome. Okay, I can look forward to checking out your notes tonight. So thanks for keeping us in the loop on that. And thanks, Mary, for getting everything ready tonight.
And I do have something to say because I was really keen on the symposium. I had been to Langdon Hall in Cambridge for another birthday celebration of mine. And this building was built in 1869 by an ancestor of mine, Julia Dixon, who married Langdon Wilkes. And nowhere in the entire building or the new things that they've built is anything that's accessible. It was, I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it. And I guess they just get away with it because of heritage. I don't know. I just don't understand. But here were David and I, and we both had our canes. And anyway, it was quite something, but lovely place to visit. That's it.
And Mary, do you have anything?
I do not, but thank you.
Well, in that case, that concludes our meeting. We all seem to have quite a bit of homework between now and the next meeting, which isn't even a month away. So November 17th. Is it going to be virtual again on the 17th, Mary?
So to give you guys a bit of an update on that, when council did take a look at this back in August, September, they had chosen to continue with virtual meetings and for rediscussion in November. I have been advised on one of my other committees, there is no limitations, I guess, on gatherings from the province. Unfortunately, we don't go by the province's rules. So we do have to wait for council to revisit that discussion in November. So it sounds like it'll be soon, but not quite yet.
Chris?
I encourage everyone to reach out to their local councillor that's not Lorraine or me, so we can get the 4 votes to get back in person. If that's what you want. It's,
Please do. Enough is enough.
Yes. I mean, we're used to this now, but I don't find it's anywhere near as effective as meeting in person.
The Railway Museum, we've been doing it for the last month, and got two meetings, Tony?
Yes.
It's so much better, just so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, would someone then move that the meeting be adjourned?
I will so move.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye. all.
Bye.
thank you, Dorothy.
Mhm.
Right.